So, what movie did you guys choose for your psychology project?
We chose the movie Front of the Class, and it's a movie about a man's journey with Tourette's syndrome, and it highlights this journey starting from his childhood through his career, and it really shows the struggles that he's had to overcome both socially and professionally to become accepted with this disorder and how to function normally among people with this disorder.
Okay, what was his chosen career?
He wanted to be an elementary teacher.
How did that work out?
Well, he eventually made it, and he was a wonderful teacher. He won several awards for his teaching, but in the beginning, many people doubted him. Naturally, they didn't think that he could really teach a class, being that he had Tourette's syndrome. So almost every interview he went to, he got shot down. Despite his wonderful resume and his recommendations, they would not give him a chance because of his disorder.
Okay. As far as the movie portrayed, what kind of symptoms did the movie show?
The movie really showed this man having, I guess, tics.
Okay.
And he would have vocal outbursts. The main one that he did was kind of barking like a dog, and many people would comment on that. Well, you're barking like a dog. And he would always tell them, I can't help it, that's my Tourette's. Another symptom he had were the muscle spasms. And he didn't have these too frequently, but once in a while he did. He would just kind of twitch and have a tic. And again, many people thought that he was trying to be funny, or he was trying to draw attention to himself when he really wasn't. It was his disorder.
So as a kid, he was labeled the class clown.
Oh yeah, teachers didn't understand, students didn't understand his disorder, because when he was a student, the disorder was still very new, and they didn't really understand what it was. They didn't understand why he had it, why he was doing the things that he was doing. And despite what he told everybody, nobody would really listen to him when he would tell them, look, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to be the class clown. I'm not trying to disrupt the class. I simply cannot help what I'm doing. And no one would ever believe him, and he got in trouble all of the time. Okay. Another symptom we talked about in class was kind of the inability to focus. He was very driven and motivated to become a teacher, but he had a really hard time sitting down and focusing on a single task. Especially reading was hard for him. And there's one scene in the movie where he's talking to a student about reading and trying to help him learn how to read. And the student asked him, do you like to read? And he said, I love to read. I love to learn. But it's 10 times harder for me to sit down and read a book than it is for you. And that kind of made the student realize not how easy it was, but the fact that it was easier for him to overcome his battle than what his teacher had.
Okay. How did he compensate in the classroom as a student and as a teacher?
As a student, he was very optimistic, and he was very hopeful the entire time. Despite the bullying he went through, both from his peers and his teachers, he always remained hopeful, he always remained optimistic, and he had the best attitude, and he always kept going. He knew that he couldn't overcome, or he couldn't let his disorder own him. He would eventually have to learn how to control his disorder, which he did.
Okay.
And in the classroom as a teacher, the very first thing he began teaching his students was about Tourette's syndrome, which is very different because I know personally I didn't know anything about Tourette's syndrome until I took abnormal psychology. So for 7-year-old students to learn that right off the bat is something really interesting and insightful, I think.
Okay. So what kind of prognosis is there typically associated with Tourette's?
Well, nowadays there is treatment for it. You can take medication to help suppress the symptoms for it, but essentially you will have it for your entire life. You can't get rid of it. It's not contagious, but you'll never be able to get rid of it.
Okay, you say it's not contagious. What causes the Tourette's then?
Biologists haven't really been able to find a root cause of Tourette's syndrome. They have found that it is genetic, but they haven't been able to find a specific gene that causes Tourette's syndrome. So they're still looking, but right now it's still a mystery.
So despite the many advances, there's still a long ways to go.
There is still a very long way to go.
All right.
How accurate would you say the movie was?
Having lived it, I would say it's pretty accurate. I too have Tourette's, so I know what it's like to live with it, and the portrayal of it was really, really good because it gives people a really true to life concept of what it is to have Tourette's. So it's very accurate. I mean, I don't think there were really any wrong aspects of it. They showed the muscle spasms really well. They got to have somebody experience the barking and the sounds and stuff like that, and it kind of gives you a really in-depth glimpse of what it is. So I think it was really good.
What about the main character's struggles professionally? How accurate do you think those were?
Again, living it, I think it's really it's accurate because it's kind of one of those things that people can't see what's wrong with it, and because it's still so new in the diagnostic aspect, people don't understand how to react to somebody with it. So they don't understand how to treat it. They don't understand how to respond to it. So people just kind of pull away, and it's a harsh reality of having it at the moment, but that too is really accurate. I don't know how else to say it.
What were some of the positive messages portrayed in the movie?
Well, of course, there was the idea of just keep on moving. I mean, keep checking and just go. Follow your dreams, because even with something like Tourette's, you still have the capabilities. You're not a lesser being because of it. You are just as good as anybody else. You're a little quirky, but you're still capable. And it really showed that message that to accept yourself for who you are and move on with that. It also, in some aspects, it showed a great tolerance for the people that did give him a chance. That you don't know that just because you're looking and seeing this person with Tourette's doesn't mean that that's the person. It showed that you have to look deeper in people in general. And I think that was a really great aspect of this film, because it did show that. On the other hand, though, it showed some of the darker sides of having Tourette's. That it's very much a social stigma still. And people that don't understand it or are ignorant of it don't react well. They don't give you the chances that you deserve. Even though this teacher had a spectacular resume, he was denied teaching positions because people didn't understand him. They couldn't see past his Tourette's and find the amazing teacher that he turned out to be. And, I mean, they lost out on it because they lost out on a great person. Instead of focusing on who he was, they focused on what they could see and missed out. And, I mean, I think that's a thing with social, in general, society. They tend to focus too much on the superficial and not focus on the person for what they can bring to the table instead of what looks funny or how they act differently. And I think the biggest problem is not knowing. By having the ignorance of it and since it is still new, people don't know enough about it to be intelligent about their reactions to it. And that being the case it's difficult, because if you don't know it and you don't experience it and you haven't seen it, it's new, it's off-putting. I mean, anything like that is different for people to understand and difficult. But I think to circumnavigate that education is the best way to do it. Just teach people about it, and then they'll be more comfortable around it instead of having those negative aspects.
Okay, so recently Linda found out in class that I have Tourette's. So I kind of want to ask, what was your reaction? Because, I mean, we've seen what the movie people say, that it's this horrible thing. So what is your take on that, as somebody that just discovered that they knew somebody with Tourette's?
Well, I actually knew you had Tourette's before you mentioned it in class. But when I very first found out, I really didn't think much of it, to be perfectly honest. I didn't really I honestly didn't know what to think. You know, we all discussed it, and I just kind of thought, okay, that's fine. I didn't feel any animosity towards you. I didn't feel awkward around you or anything like that. I didn't really feel like I needed to, but I didn't really know that much about it until you spoke in class. But even then, I still love you. It doesn't bother me.
So see, even people like me with Tourette's can find people that are great and understand that. And I think it's a message for everybody. Be more like Linda. Be accepting, because we're people too. We're just quirky.
We're
So
quirky, yeah.
yeah, we're quirky. So learn to love, people. Learn to love.